Everything is in the poems. But I just heard that one of my fellow poets thinks that a poem of mine that can't be got at one reading is because I was confused too. Oh, how can you really care if anybody gets it, or gets what it means, or if it improves them? Improves them for what? For death? Why hurry them along? Too many poets act like a middle-aged mother trying to get her kids to eat too much cooked meat and potatoes. I don't give a damn whether they eat or not. Nobody should experience anything they don't need to. If they don't need poetry, bully for them. Now, personism, a movement which I recently founded and which nobody knows about, interests me a great deal. Now, personism has nothing to do with philosophy. It's all art. It has nothing to do with personality or intimacy, far from it. But to give you a vague idea, one of its minimal aspects is to address itself to one person other than the poet himself. Now that's part of personism. It was founded by me after lunch with Leroy Jones on August 27th, 1959. A day in which I was in love with someone. Not Roy, by the way, a blonde. I went back to work and wrote a poem for this person. While I was writing it, I was realizing that if I wanted to, I could use the telephone instead of writing the poem. And so personism was born. It puts the poem squarely between the poet and the person. And the poem is correspondingly gratified. The poem is at last between two persons instead of two pages. Now, in all modesty, I confess that it may be the death of literature as we know it. Now, while I have certain regrets, poetry being quicker and surer than prose, it is only just that poetry finished literature off. Now, what can we expect from personism? This is getting good, isn't it? Everything, but we won't get it. It is too new, too vital a movement to promise anything. But it, like Africa, is on the way. The recent propagandists for technique on the one hand and for content on the other had better watch out. When I was a child, I played by myself in a corner of the schoolyard, all alone. I hated dolls and I hated games. Animals were not friendly, and birds flew away. If anyone was looking for me, I hid behind a tree and cried out, "I am an orphan." And here I am, the center of all beauty, writing these poems. Imagine. I am not a painter. I'm a poet. Why? I think I would rather be a painter, but I am not. Well, for instance, Mike Goldberg is starting a painting. I drop in, sit down and have a drink. He says, I drink, we drink. I look up. You have sardines in it. Yes, it needed something there. I go and the days go by and I drop in again. The painting is going on. And I go and the days go by. I drop in. The painting is finished. Where's sardines? All that's left is just letters. It was too much, Mike says. But me? One day I am thinking of a color, orange. I write a line about orange. Pretty soon it is a whole page of words, not lines. Then another page. There should be so much more, not of orange, of words, of how terrible orange is, and life. Days go by. It is even in prose. I am a real poet. My poem is finished, and I haven't even mentioned orange yet. It's 12 poems. I call it Oranges. And one day, in a gallery, I see Mike's painting called Sardines. Mothers of America, let your kids go to the movies. Get them out of the house so they won't know what you're up to. It's true that fresh air is good for the body, but what about the soul that grows in darkness, embossed by silvery images? And when you grow old, as grow old you must, they won't hate you. They won't criticize you. They won't know. They'll be in some glamorous country they first saw on a Saturday afternoon or playing hooky. They may even be grateful to you for their first sexual experience, which only cost you a quarter and didn't upset the peaceful home. They will know where candy bars come from and gratuitous bags of popcorn, as gratuitous as leaving a movie before it's over with a pleasant stranger whose apartment is in the Heaven on Earth building near the Williamsburg Bridge. Oh, mothers, you will have made the tykes so happy. Because even if nobody does pick them up in the movies, they won't know the difference. And if somebody does, it'll be sheer gravy. And they'll have been truly entertained either way. Instead of hanging around the yard or up in their room, hating you prematurely, since you won't have done anything horribly mean yet, except keeping them from the darker joys. It's unforgivable, the latter. So don't blame me if you won't take this advice and the family breaks up and your children go old and blind in front of a TV set seeing movies you wouldn't let them see when they were young. Lana Turner has collapsed. I was trotting along, and suddenly it started raining and snowing. And you said it was hailing. But hailing hits you on the head hard. So it was really snowing and raining, and I was in such a hurry to meet you, but the traffic was acting exactly like the sky, and suddenly I see a headline. Lana Turner has collapsed. There is no snow in Hollywood. There's no rain in California. I have been to lots of parties and acted perfectly disgraceful. But I never actually collapsed. Oh, Lana Turner, we love you. Get up. Is it dirty? Does it look dirty? That's what you think of in the city. Does it just seem dirty? That's what you think of in the city. You don't refuse to breathe, do you? Someone comes along with a very bad character. He seems attractive. Is he really? Yes, very. He's attractive as his character is bad. Is it? Yes. That's what you think of in the city. Run your finger along your no moss mind. That's not a thought. That's soot. And you take a lot of dirt off someone. Is the character less bad? No. It improves constantly. You don't refuse to breathe, do you? Wouldn't it be funny if the finger had designed us to shit just once a week? All week long, we'd get fatter and fatter, and then on Sunday morning, when everyone's in church, ploop,